winner of the 2013 Newbery Medal Award, and also #1 on New York Times bestseller list. The One and Only Ivan is an incredible novel, an unforgettable novel of friendship. Ivan is a silverback gorilla, and he's been a captive for the last 27 years in a glass enclosure in the mall. For you see, the mall owner has billboards out on the interstate that announces, "Come see our silverback gorilla." Ivan's gotten so used to people looking at him, he doesn't even think about it. He spends his days watching TV and playing with his friends Stella and Bob, or maybe doing some art. It's only when Ruby, a baby elephant, arrives that Ivan sees things in new ways and thinks, what can I do to help her? Is she destined to be in this tiny enclosure for the rest of her life? If you want an incredible story of friendship and the power of friendship, the unexpected power of friendship, check out The One and Only Ivan. I'm sure you will enjoy it.
The book Sky Jumpers is an excellent new adventure that will be at your upcoming book fair. You should check it out. It's about a girl named Hope who lives in a town called White Rock. She lives there sometime shortly after World War III. Now, the town of White Rock is special because it's full of inventors who like to invent new things, specifically a vaccine, an antibiotic for a deadly disease that's taking over towns all around where they live. One day, a group of bandits comes and takes all of the vaccine, all of the antibiotic that's there in White Rock. Hope is not a very good inventor, but what she lacks in inventing skills, she more than makes up for in courage and bravery. And it's up to Hope and her friends to save the town of White Rock. You should check out Sky Jumpers.
Students, have any of you ever heard of the famous astronomer Copernicus? He was a man who studied the stars back in the 1400s. In the book, The Copernicus Legacy, The Forbidden Stone, we meet a boy named Wade Kaplan. Wade has an antique star map given to him by a man he calls Uncle Henry. Not really his uncle, but a man who used to be one of his father's professors when his father studied astronomy. One day, Wade gets a very odd email from Uncle Henry. And shortly after that, the family is horrified to find that Uncle Henry has died a mysterious death. Wade, his stepbrother Daryl, his cousin Lily, and her friend Becca head to Germany along with Wade's dad to attend Uncle Henry's funeral. When they're there, they realize that there is a gadget, an astrolabe, that will allow people to travel back in time. A gadget that Copernicus created but then took apart so that no one could use it for evil purposes. However, there is a group called the Knights of the Teutonic Order that want to find the 12 relics, the 12 pieces that must be put back into this astrolabe so that they can control time and control the world. It is up to Wade and his father, his brother, and friends to find these relics before the Knights of the Order can do so. This means they'll be traveling around the world and trying to stay one step ahead of these evil men. Will they have a chance? Do you think they can do it? Well, check out this first book, The Copernicus Legacy, The Forbidden Stone, and discover an incredible mystery. It'll be at your spring book fair.
Students, do I have a great book for you? I bet some of you love 3 Times Lucky or maybe Moon Over Manifest. If you like those books, you are bound to love The Girl from Felony Bay. This year has been a tough year for 12-year-old Abby Force. Her father's been in a coma since a terrible accident, and he was framed for a break-in that he didn't commit. His plantation had to be sold off to pay his debt to society, and now Abby is having to live with her horrible, mean, and cruel Uncle Charlie. Can things get any worse for Abby? Well, things start getting a little bit better when a new family moves in and she strikes up a friendship with Bee. But there's mysteries, and her father is still in a coma, and she's still having to live with her mean uncle. How will Abby handle everything going on in her life? And can she solve some mysteries that date back to the Civil War? Set in South Carolina, this book is bound to become a new favorite of yours. Check out Girl from Felony Bay.
Students, do you ever feel like you just do too many things? It's too much to handle? Well, in the book, Jack Strong Takes a Stand, a boy named Jack feels the same way. His parents make him go to cello practice. He plays tennis, he plays baseball, he has tutoring, and he is taking Chinese language lessons, on top of all of his normal homework and responsibilities. So Jack decides that he is going to stage a sit-in, and he's going to sit on his couch and not do a thing until his parents let him take some things off of his busy schedule. Find out what happens in the book, Jack Strong Takes a Stand.
Boys and girls, how many of you have the newspaper delivered to your house each morning? Well, if you do, it's probably delivered by a grown-up who drives around in a car before it's even light and delivers the paper. But I've got a great book for you called Paper Boy, about a boy who's called Little Man, who was actually serving as a paper boy for a friend years ago. The book takes place in the town of Memphis. The main character loves to play baseball. He is a great pitcher, and his best friend is a great catcher. One day at practice, Little Man accidentally throws a wild pitch and hits his catcher friend in the face. Well, to sort of say he's sorry, Little Man agrees to deliver his friend's papers for a month while the friend is off visiting his grandmother. There's a problem, though. Back in 1959, a paper boy would have to go around to each house at the end of the week and collect the money for the paper. Well, Little Man is really afraid to do that because he has trouble speaking. He stutters, and sometimes his words just won't come out like he wants them to. He's not afraid of delivering the newspapers, throwing them from his bike onto the porches, but the thought of going up to strangers to collect the money is really scary. Plus, there's a junk man that goes around in his neighborhood that seems to be having his eye on Little Man. Little Man finds out when his knife is stolen by the junk man that this is going to be a real challenge. If you want to read an incredible book about a really super guy, check out Paperboy.
10-year-old Ruby Goldberg, who is in the 5th grade, is determined to win her school's science fair this year. She has snagged second prize 2 years straight, and she is determined to end that second streak and become first place prize winner and beat her nemesis, Dominique Robinson. The only problem is Ruby doesn't have a clue. She doesn't have any idea what her brilliant science fair project will be. Can Ruby come up with some really clever, super-duper, ingenious plan? Some project that will just wow the judges so that she wins first place and claims that first prize instead of being the runner-up again? Well, if you like a great story, check out Ruby Goldberg's bright idea.
Everyone in the Bailey family gets a superpower sometime after their 12th birthday. But for Rafter and Benny Bailey, their superpower is pretty lame. Or so they think, until they're tasked with saving the family from the evil Johnson family, who also have superpowers. Can they do it? Can they save their family and reconcile the enmity that's been going on between the two families for years? You'll have to find out in the book, Almost Super.
Boys girls, do you ever wish that you could read a book about a character who does really wonderful things? Well, I want you to check out the book Pay It Forward at your book fair. This is the amazing story of a boy named Trevor. He's 12 years old and he lives with his mom. When he starts the first day of school, he is surprised to see that his teacher has a face with scars and that his teacher has a limp. The teacher knows that he's kind of hard to look at, but he challenges the students. He tells them that for extra credit, he wants them to come up with an idea of something that they can do to change the world. Well, Trevor thinks, I'm only 12 years old. I'm one kid. How could I change the world? But he decides that he's going to do something kind for 3 different people and ask them to do something kind for 3 other people to pay it forward. He picks a homeless man, he picks an older woman in his neighborhood, and even his teacher as the 3 people he will help. Everything doesn't go as he had planned, but the results of his actions are amazing. Do you think that you could do something that would change the world? Well, check out the book Pay It Forward and find out you probably can.
Never wear red lipstick on picture day, and other lessons I've learned is a funny new book at your book fair. Mandy Brewer is getting ready for class picture day, and she wants the perfect accessory to complete her outfit. She's got her handy dandy sunglasses. She's got a sparkly scarf. She's got a pink purse, none of which seems to be quite right. And if that is not enough, the principal has announced a school-wide contest for the student that's the best behaved in lunchroom for the next 2 weeks will get to have lunch with the principal in the mysterious and mythical teacher's lounge. You know, the teacher's lounge that's off limits to students. Mandy really wants to win the contest, but she also wants the perfect accessory for class picture day. What will Mandy do? Well, if you enjoy a funny story, you want to check out this book at your spring book fair.
Anderson's family owns an old junk shop, a place where they sell antiques and other old things. One day, he and his friends Greg and Julie are down in the basement of the junk shop, rummaging through some things, and they find a pea coat, an old navy pea coat that has a mysterious letter inside. Anderson's curious, so he takes the pea coat and the letter home with him, and that night, he's visited by a ghost, the ghost of the man who once owned the pea coat and letter, and that sends Anderson, Greg, and Julie off on an adventure to find out what happened to the man with the pea coat. You'll have to find out when you read Ghosts of War, The Secret of Midway.
Boys and girls, can you imagine living in a world where a deadly disease called the Red Death has claimed the life of almost every animal and lots of people? Well, that's the situation in the book The Last Wild. 12-year-old Kester James is living at the Spectrum Academy for Challenged Children. He's been living there for 6 years, ever since the day his mother died, and he hasn't spoken a word since then. The people there think something is wrong with Kester James. But one day he realizes that he can understand the thoughts of a little cockroach running across the floor. In fact, Kester can understand and communicate without speaking with rats, insects, cockroaches, and even pigeons. These animals believe that Kester is the only person who may be able to make the trip across the last mile to a city where there is a man who may know how to keep this Red Death from spreading, from claiming the lives of the last few animals left on Earth. They, in fact, break Kester out of the academy, and by riding on the back of a wild stag, he tries to make the trip to get the cure. But it won't be easy. You see, there are evil men who don't want him to succeed. And he's got to get there before they get him or before the rest of the animals die. For an amazing eco-thriller, check out The Last Wild.
Author Blue Balliet is well known for writing mysteries. She is the author of Chasing Vermeer, The Right Three, The Calder Games, and in her newest novel, Hold Fast. She doesn't disappoint us. It's another great mystery set in Chicago. The Pearl family, there's the mom and dad and the kids Early and the little brother Juby, also called Jubilation. They live in a one-room apartment. The dad works for the public library when he disappears one day without a trace. Early tries to figure out what happened. The police come to their apartment, but they're not much help. They think he just left on his own accord. It's up to Early to try to figure out and bring the family back together. If you like a great mystery, one that you're trying to figure out because there's clues sprinkled throughout the book, you'll love Hold Fast by Blue Balliet.
Students, if you've enjoyed all of the Who Was books about people in our history, you should check out the new book called What Was the Hindenburg? See, a long time ago, airplanes weren't used to fly or weren't used to travel very much. Instead, they had these giant airships called Zeppelins. The Hindenburg was one of these Zeppelins, and the flight of the Hindenburg ended disastrously. To find out more about Zeppelins and to find out about the Hindenburg, you'll have to read the book, What Was the Hindenburg?
Students, one of my favorite books at your spring Cardinal Lane Book Fair is The Great Trouble, a mystery of London, the Blue Death, and a boy called Eel. This book takes place in London in the summer of 1854. It's hot, and people along Eel's Street, Broad Street, begin to die of the Blue Death. Yes, an epidemic of cholera has hit London. Eel, a 13-year-old orphan, is trying to keep food in his tummy by working as an errand boy, by cleaning the cages of the animals kept in a lab by Dr. Snow, and also by getting into the filthy Thames River to scavenge for any treasures he might sell. One day, he becomes aware that Dr. Snow thinks that this Blue Death is not a disease spread in the air, but that it has something to do with people drinking dirty water. How could that be, the people on Broad Street say? The water pump on their street has the best tasting water. But Eel, who's also trying to evade a crook who's trying to track him down, decides that he and his friend Flory are going to help Dr. Snow find the cause of the Blue Death. Do you like figuring out a mystery related to a real event in history? Well, if you do, check out The Great Trouble.
There's an exciting new series of books at your book fair, and it's called 10 True Tales. The first book, Surviving Sharks and Other Dangerous Creatures, is 10 true-to-life tales of people who survived shark attacks, being almost squeezed to death by a boa constrictor, and other dangerous encounters with very dangerous animals. The second book of the 10 True Tales is FBI Heroes, 10 stories of the heroes of the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who've saved people's lives. You should check out this series at your book fair.
Boys and girls, how do you like my super shirt? I know that you're super kids, and I want to share with you a super series called Stranded Shadow Island. In these two books, brothers and sisters Vanessa, Carter, Buzz, and Jane find themselves rescued from an island only to get separated from their parents and land on a jungle island that is inhabited by a people called the Nukulu. They can't understand what the Nukulu are saying, but they realize that they're going to have to figure out a way to escape if they are ever to be found by their parents again. It involves being trapped in holes, being trapped in nets, having to run a race that lasts 2 days against other kids. This book has lots of exciting jungle adventures, a twist and turn around every corner. So if you want to read something with super excitement and super adventure, check out Stranded: Shadow Island at your book fair.
Books are super. Read a few and then you will be
Super too! It's not working!
Why isn't this working?
It's because you don't have a cake.